Hello, is this thing on? Can you all hear me?
Yeah.
Are you good?
Yes.
Are you good?
Yeah.
All right, easy. Every time I do public speaking, I've always had this fear that when I walk out, I'll trip and fall. So far, so good, right? I'm off to a good start. Before I get into what I'm going to share with you guys today, I was introduced as a bit of a poet. I'm a budding poet, and I want to share a bit of word with you today, all right? Is that all right? Yeah. I was trying to memorize it, but I was taking care of my 2-year-old son, so I got my paper here, my cheat sheet. All right? I want you all to open your ears. I want you all to open your ears. And when I say that, I don't mean just to try your best to hear, but be enveloped by this story. I'm not unique. I'm nothing special. I'm no different to you, but I'm here to tell you of a different place and a different time, where I was bred and where I was mined and where I learned to be exploratory. My story, it wouldn't make a great movie. These highlights, they are not trending on Twitter worthy, okay? I'm just a young gunner like you who's trying to give something back because I've been given so much that I waste my breath when I focus on my own needs. I am hungry. I am thirsty. In front of me is every opportunity. I slumber. And when I wake, I plunder and I convince myself that my consumption makes me a positive member of society. See, the grand schemes and lofty dreams thrown onto the roof of the teenage bedroom eventuated into the seemingly mindless pursuit of stability. Where I was bred and where I was mined was a small blip in the memories on my timeline. Now, 24 hours each day, every day, I'm chasing my tail, trying to make sense of why I succeed, far less of, why I don't succeed as much as I fail. And I'm tired of trying, but I get one shot at life, so it makes sense that I endure. Because one day, I will prevail. Though what it means to prevail seems to modify as I get older. Instead of making bank and climbing that corporate ladder, I'm focused on being a provider. Instead of holidays with my boys and trips to the racetrack, I spend my time with my son and the love of my life without looking back. And instead of focusing on self, which every bit of me wants to do, and do often, I am humbled when my conscience is moved to paint a picture of the journey towards my coffin and I see nothing but my accomplishments with a trail of empty relationships left somewhere behind. I believe I exist for a purpose divine. I breathe and my heart pumps blood that I might pump love back into the pipeline. I wake up to inspire, to encourage, to uplift, and to remind anyone and everyone that will give a listening ear that they are beautiful, that they are capable, that they are deserving of experiencing Cloud 9. But what I do, that's not important. It's how I got to this mindset that's worth it. Understand, what I do isn't important. It's how I foster, how I nurture, and hold tight to this outlet, this mic. It's how I don't forget that each moment, each interaction with anyone is precious and fleeting. That's how I know it's not chance that all of you, right here, right now, here in Port Macquarie, at the Glass House, it's no chance that we're meeting. So, it's nice to make your acquaintance. My name's Josh Moses, and I'm here to share with you guys about the value of being humble. All right? But before I do that, I've got this thing that I do every time I do public speaking. You guys want to stand up for a second? I'll get you to stand up again if it's all right. Every time I do public speaking, since I do a lot of speaking for my company, I always have to prove to my boss that I'm actually working. And the best way to do that is to take a selfie with everyone. So I'm just going to take a selfie with you guys. Is that all right? All right. I'll go back and see how many of you I can actually fit in. This will be on Instagram later. All right. 1, 2, 3. Woo! All right, now that's the small camera. Stand up. That's the small camera. That thing said I was a photographer before. That my introduction said I was a photographer before. This is my tool. This is my weapon. All right. So this is my last selfie, and then we'll get into it. All right. Thanks for standing up. 1, 2, 3. Sweet. Now you guys can sit down. I appreciate it. This is the clicker, I take it?
Yep.
Hey. All right. A lot of people will tell you that with age comes wisdom. The same man who said these words, I count him braver who overcomes his desires than him who conquers his enemies, for the hardest victory is over self. The same person that said that also said this. They, young people, have exalted notions because they have not been humbled by life or learned its necessary limitations. Moreover, their hopeful disposition makes them think themselves equal to great things. Their lives are regulated more by moral feeling than by reasoning, and all their mistakes are in the direction of doing things excessively and vehemently. Does that sound like you guys? They overdo everything. They love too much. They hate too much, and the same with everything else. The man who said that was Aristotle, a Greek philosopher, one of the fathers of philosophy. The same man who said this, true wisdom comes to each of us when we realize how little we understand about our life, ourselves, and the world around us. That same person also said that the children now love luxury, iPhones, Instagram, Snapchat, all these things. They show disrespect for elders and love chatter in the place of exercise. You guys are nice and quiet, that's good. Children are tyrants, not servants of the household. They no longer rise when elders enter the room. That's not true, you guys stood for me, thank you. They contradict their parents, they chatter before company, they gobble up dainties at the table. I don't know what that means. They cross their legs and they tyrannize over their teachers. And that man's name was Socrates, another famous Greek philosopher. I'm not 100% sure on the source of that. It's said that he actually may not have written that, but one of his students down the track did. But regardless, those two philosophers lived a long, long time ago. People have been getting it wrong about young people for a long, long time. I don't know if you've had people in your life that chastise you or reprimand you for being exploratory, for pushing boundaries, or for simply being your honest self. But I want to tell you that this isn't something unique for your generation. I dealt with it, and if you speak with any adult in here with their 30s, their 40s, their 50s, their 60s, their 90s, their 100s, they'll all tell you the same thing, that when they were young, older people didn't understand them. So please don't think that. I don't get you guys at all. You guys confuse me so much, and it's my job to try and understand you guys. I work in marketing and promotions. How smart you guys are, how quick you learn tech. I was trying to learn how to use Snapchat the other day, and someone just came up and showed me in like 2 seconds, and I still don't get it. I'm slow to learn, but you guys are so fast to learn, and it's something that I can't comprehend. And I'm not that much older than you guys, a little bit older. But like I said, it's part of my job to try and understand you. I'm no expert. I've been doing this for a little while, but I'm just having a crack. I work for a humanitarian agency called Asian Aid in Wauchope. I heard you guys whooping before. Woo! Who's from Wauchope? Yes, all two of you. Now, Wauchope's pretty cool, and Asian Aid's been out there. We just turned 50 years old this year, Asian Aid. And we work in 6 countries in Asia, obviously, as the name suggests. We don't work in Russia, we don't work in Uzbekistan. And our work involves creating opportunities for children and families who are stuck in poverty, in the hopes that the next generation of kids will have more opportunities, in the hopes that the next generation of kids will be free from curable disease, will be free from societal stigmas, and they'll be aware of their rights that they have as human beings. It's very important that we engage with them, and this is why we all go to work every day at Asian Aid. It's a pretty cool job. It's taken me to a lot of places. That top left picture, I'm in Bangladesh in a hill tracks area where we had to be escorted by police to get to a school because of a lot of bandits that hang out in the hills. It makes these places very hard to access. The middle one's on Bangladesh on the back of a bike where I was en route to go and video an interview of a previous student that we'd supported in our program who'd gone on to go back and help their community. And on the right, that's me with some of my video gear doing some work in Bangalore, India, where we also lived. A city of 8 million people, so slightly bigger than Port Macquarie, not much bigger. So yeah, it's a pretty cool job. Now I work mainly here in Australia. There's some more pictures of us working overseas. That's me taking more selfies. I took selfies before it was a thing, all right? And yeah, that's me handing some training materials over to some of the people that we support. Yeah, as I said, I now work here in Australia mainly. I do a lot of work with youth, speak for youth, and the whole idea of my work is to inspire you to think about others before yourself, to consider the situations of those less fortunate than you, and hopefully encourage and inspire you to think of ways to change the situations for those people. So that's pretty much all I do. I want to build people's worldviews, and specifically youth. It's all because I want to try and be cool and be young, and this is my way of trying to be young, is hanging out with you guys, so thanks for having me. When I was your age, which isn't that long ago, if you told me that I'd be standing up in front of a bunch of cool kids trying to tell them about being altruistic, I would have been very, very confused. It's not something that I think I would have ever felt comfortable to see myself doing when I got older. My parents and my brother, they were both high achievers. My mom is a just about to retire Army nurse. She's been in the Army for 25 years. She's gone on more than 20 missions for earthquake relief, disaster relief all over the world. She's been to 3 tours of war in 1991, 2003, and 2008. She was in Iraq. She's a beast. She's 65 years old, has got bigger calf muscles than me, still gets a marksman's award for her shooting of a pistol and rifle. So she's pretty full on. Yeah. My mom can beat up your mom. Now, and my dad's a businessman. The first company he started got up to 300 employees. We were one of the big providers in that area of medicinal supplies. Since then, he's started 4 other successful businesses, all in the medical industry. My brother, 5 years older to me, was always cool. All the girls liked him. He always had a girlfriend. He played on the basketball team, got straight A's. Never really had to study either. He was just a really, really smart guy. He was slated to be something spectacular by all his teachers, and we went to the same school, and I had nearly all the same teachers that he did. They never said that about me. He went on to become a specialist in sports medicine and physiotherapy. He got to work with the, I can't remember the baseball teams. I don't really like baseball, but he got to work with one of the Major League Baseball teams in the U.S., doing research on how better to throw a pitch. So similar to cricket, bowling. I've still got my American roots, you know. I, on the other hand, was an asthmatic. I was very unhealthy. I ate very unhealthy, and as a result, I used to be really, really overweight. And as such, I was useless at sports, so I didn't like it. I pretended not to like it. I wasn't allowed to work in the yard or mow the lawns or work on our property because we had about 5 acres because of my respiratory problems and my allergies. I wasn't great at school. I didn't get good marks, but I was considered what many would call now to be a creative. I was a scatterbrain. I loved drawing. I loved writing, and I couldn't focus on one thing at a time. And so I loved drawing and I loved writing, which led to a professional career in photography and a budding interest in spoken word, which I shared with you before. I'm painting you a picture of the environment I grew up in because I'm sure by doing so, there are at least a few of you now who might be able to relate with my story or not. Maybe you all are all awesome. You're all high achievers. That's why you're here. But there might be someone out there who could relate to this. And the reason why I'm sharing that with you is that, you know, we're here at Luminosity 2016. Why is being humble or being humbled a worthy topic to share with you guys? What does it have to do with my apparently awesome family and the fact that I was the black sheep? Your theme is about being inspired to follow your dreams, about being challenged to be the best version of yourselves, and how to excel in your journey. When I was your age, I didn't have the foresight to dream big, okay? I didn't have a great deal of self-confidence. I still don't. It's something that I'm developing. I've only been really doing public speaking for about a year. I still get super nervous. And unfortunately, I didn't have the best circle of friends when I was your age that encouraged me to achieve higher anyways. I was speaking with one of my friends before. I was just on the way here, and he was like, man, it's so cool that you're going to speak at Luminosity. I think it's really cool that you're going to speak to the next generation. These are the guys that are going to take our jobs. We need to make sure that they're good. We need to make sure that they're focused. And he was like, man, I wish we had stuff like Luminosity when I was growing up. And I was like, man, I know, right? Like, this is such a great opportunity you guys have. Drink this up, and digest it, and let it become a part of you. Don't forget these things. But yeah, and so the best person to challenge you is yourself. And that's what I learned after not having that many people to challenge me when I was growing up. A lot of people told me that I couldn't. In my teens, I didn't have the confidence to challenge myself. It wasn't until I did 2 things in my life that I was able to see measurable change and realize what the value was in being humble or being humbled. The first thing, so at 18 years old, I decided to move to Australia. I knew no one here. I had no support networks. I had no friends or family. I came here for uni. I chose to put myself far out of my comfort zone, largely because I wanted to escape the shadow that was cast by my awesome family. I didn't feel that I could make it up to their standards, and so I wanted to have a crack on my own, but I needed to be separate from them to do it. No one in Australia would know me as Ruben's son, as Clara's son, as Jason's little brother. I was adamant that they would know me as Josh. It was here where I began to get healthy. I lost over 35 kilos in a year. I started getting into sport. I do Muay Thai and I play basketball. Muay Thai is kickboxing. It was here that I began to ponder about what I was passionate about, and that's something that often happens for people who are leaving school or going into the workforce. I was pondering about what my values are, but most importantly, I was realizing that I am in control of my identity. I can define that. So that was the first thing I did. The second thing I did that allowed me to see measurable change and realize the value of being humble was when I began to volunteer. I finished uni. I was keen as to climb that corporate ladder, as I was saying before, get a good job, get some nice cars in my garage, because I'm a car guy. And I had the drive to give back to society, but I never believed that I had something worth sharing. I was just getting into my job, and those of you who know what it's like to be broke, I had no money, so I didn't really want to give back what little money I had. But that's when I met her, and there's always a her in every story. So that's my wife. She's a little hottie. She was and is still an activist who walks the walk like very few I know. As I'm speaking right now, she is in India. She's training our staff there with some new things that we're doing in our program. I could talk for hours about what that is, and it wouldn't make sense to any of you. But yeah, she's there right now, and she's there for another 13 days before she gets back. So think about her. Yeah, I liked her. I put a ring on her, but she's given me so much more than that ring ever meant to her. She inspired me to build a bridge between my confidence and my keen application of efficiency to a life of service and selflessness. When we lived in Sydney, we started volunteering 2 weekends every month, one weekend at a juvenile prison or a remand center that they call it. And then also the other weekend we would run these day centers for some of the more poor people, urban settlers in the city. And in that urban center, a group of us, we used to teach kids how to read, teach kids how to use computers. We played games with them. We used to just jam out and listen to music together. We cooked a meal and we shared a meal with them. And the whole idea was that we were just meeting people where they were at. We were being human to them, when in their minds, not a lot of people were. At the remand centers or the juvenile prison, for those of you who don't know, the remand center is a place where a kid who has committed a crime goes, and they're there while they await for a judge to make a decision as to what's going to happen to them. So there's a lot of kids with a lot of insecurity there. And yeah, we would go and hang out there together. We shared our journeys as well as listened to theirs. We wanted to know what their aspirations were, what they wanted to do in life, and encourage them if they didn't have an idea. I've just been told that I got 10 minutes, so I gotta hurry up. They were a great learning experience, but it was with her. It was her that taught me that it's not about us and them, it's about all of us together. When I'd get self-focused, she'd humble me something fierce and get me focused to realize that I did have something to share. It was the beginnings of something that eventually took over my life. There's a big difference between being humble and being humbled, and that's what I'm talking about today. Being humble is a choice you make on your own. It's your own pursuit. So many think that being humble is a bad thing. The world will tell you that being humble is a bad thing, that it means you're unassertive, that you're low-ranked, that you're undistinguished, that you're passive, that you're submissive. But I reckon it's complete opposite. I found it well on an article that was on Forbes, which is a financial website, and I love this. To be humble is not to think less of oneself, but to think of oneself less. Okay? To be humble is not to think less of oneself, but to think of oneself less. It doesn't mean to think of yourself as low capacity. If you're awesome, acknowledge that you're awesome. I believe I have a great deal of capacity, and I think I'm kind of smart. But it's about what I do and who I'm serving with my intelligence and my capabilities that would make me humble or not. That just rhymed. I wasn't even trying. Then there's being humbled, okay? There are thousands of articles online about being humble, about pursuing humility. But there's not that many about being humbled, being defeated, being trounced, being conquered, to cause someone to feel less important or less proud. Look, everyone will tell you that your destiny is what you make it. It's probably been said a few times today already, that you have the power to do anything you want, and that is absolutely true. It's 100% true. If you dream it, you can achieve it, but if all you do in life is to seek to be the most important, the most successful, the most proud, it's an addiction that can leave those that surround you missing out on the beauty that you have to share with them. Self-seeking and chasing precisely what you want narrows your focus. It makes you sharp, which is great if you want to achieve a lot at the cost of those around you. But widen that focus and you'll see that there's a lot of people that want to connect to you on a real level. We wanted to see how far we could go with giving back. So yeah, we moved overseas. We got married in 2012. We quit our jobs. We sold our cars. We sold all our stuff. And we lived 2 years in the foothills of the Himalayas. So that shot in the middle is sort of about a couple Ks where we lived, and we got to see the mountains pretty much every morning. It was very beautiful, but very poor. That's where we started working for Asian Aid. We were learning what it was to be married and coexist together, as well as learning what it was like to live life as a humanitarian. Our work was challenging, but it was a great journey working with the locals and getting to know their ways. When all our friends were starting their careers, buying houses, buying cars, traveling around the world to nice places and going to concerts, which we really missed out on because that's what we really loved doing, becoming more professional, we were what many would consider slumming it. We lived out of our backpacks. We didn't earn much to survive. We tried our best to eat and live like the locals, which meant we were buying our food from the street markets and trying to learn the language, all because we wanted to test to see how much we could give back. I remember traveling through remote Nepal with some doctors, and there were 8 of us in a 4-wheel drive. All the empty spaces in the 4-wheel drive were filled with medicine, and it was my job to document this health clinic that we were running. We drove the better part of 4 or 5 hours, in which we traveled less than 80 Ks. So that's the distance between here and Sydney, which is like 250 or 290 Ks. We did it less than 80 Ks. We saw over 100 patients in less than 3 hours and then drove back. And it was there that I learned 3 things. 1, I have it so much better than I'll ever realize. 2, I'm not always the smartest person in the room, and my ego has the potential to really hurt somebody. 3, entitlement and pride is something that can poison us all, and it's a poison that infects us deeply. So I need to get through this quick. Let me explain each of these points. The first point, we went through a long journey to get to these places to help these people, but the journey that they took to get to us was much worse. So we drove 4.5 hours to get there. They walked 2 to 3 days because they don't have transport, they're poor. There were people that were carried on makeshift stretchers out of sticks 2 to 3 days to get seen by the doctors, because this was the last time the doctors would go and visit this rural community because of monsoon. So we get rain here in Port Macquarie. They get rain here like 150 times what we get here. So much so that you can't actually take a 4-wheel drive to some of these places. It becomes very difficult. And that means if you're sick in a monsoon, you could die. If you're sick in a monsoon and you can't get a doctor to see you, it means you can't work. It means your family doesn't have income, which means you can't have food. If you push through and you try and work during the monsoon, it can kill you. You get pneumonia. You get where I'm headed? I have it so much better than I'll ever realize, and that's what I realized up there. Point number 2, I was humbled to assess my impact and not give off a vibe that because I was from affluence, because I was from the West, because I had a uni degree, that I had the answers for them. And that's the same for us. We all think that because we have Google at our fingertips, we know everything. And if not, we can just look for it. Sometimes the differences between values and opinions are worth having, and keeping ego in check before you get humbled is incredibly valuable, and I got humbled up there on that mountain. Point 3, entitlement and pride is something that can poison us. If you look at charitable work or humanitarian work or aid work that's been done over the last 75 years, you'll see exactly that. If you give a man a fish, he eats for a day. If you teach a man to fish, he'll never starve. The humanitarian sector and the aid sector gave and gave and gave, and this created entitlement. Many communities around the world love being poor because now in the West we just donate and donate and donate. It's that sob story. Now our focus is preventative. A lot of the work that Asian Aid does before was like that. Now it's preventative. What good are our efforts to help people or to be selfless if we have to do it forever? That's not efficient. Now we train the locals with good education to avoid the same challenges. And much the same for us here. If we don't hold each other accountable, if you don't hold the person next to you accountable and encourage and inspire them to seek humility, we're not going to do the next generation any justice. It took me really long to learn that. So let's put this all together in a simple to digest smoothie, all right? I like smoothies. This isn't boost juice, it's much better. It's okay to pursue your dreams and be precisely what you envision yourself being. Just think of how you can help someone else on that same journey. Keep disciplined and keep that ego in check. The world will tell you your ego is totally fine, but your answers aren't always right, and that's okay. Be quick to listen and slow to speak, and you'll learn heaps. Run from entitlement. You are not entitled to have an iPhone. You are not entitled to have that nice pair of skinny jeans you see in the shops. You got to earn it. Whether you are living selfishly or selflessly, entitlement will only hurt you, so why not focus on being selfless? Just remember, we made this globalized world, so it's our responsibility to consider and care for the world just as much as we enjoy it. And like I said in the beginning, I'm no prophet, I'm not a sage, I'm not that smart. This stage is just where I share what I've learned in only a few years, and I have a lot more to live. But you guys are younger than me. You have a lot more to live yourselves. So play your strengths when you give back. If you're a numbers person, run stats for a company that's working in disaster relief. If you're a creative, run an art exhibition, collaborate with people. The stronger the numbers, the more you can collaborate, the more you can impress with your cause. I just wish when I was your age I had an event like this. I wish I had the access to the sort of higher level thinking that you guys have. That would have made me more inspired than I am now. And so take heart and enjoy this space. If you're keen to follow the work that Asian Aid does, or you're interested in getting more involved with what we do, we're on Twitter, we're on Instagram, we're on Facebook. We're trying to be hip. I run all of it. And so if it needs some improvement, just shoot a message and I'll be the one that responds to you. We'd love more advocates such as yourself to get out there and be selfless and show the world that you can be successful at the same time as being humble. When you leave this place, go and do. You understand? When you leave this room, go and do for someone else other than yourself. Your next generation will benefit from it immensely. Thanks.